It feels weird sometimes to play a game I can actually beat in less than 10 hours when my usual fare is at least 40 plus, but it's also a nice reminder of how to make a fascinating game and story in a condensed timeline. Transistor, like all the Supergiant games I've played so far, is a well thought out game with depth of gameplay and subtle approach to world building. Couple that with the always standout presentation visually and auditorily, and you've got another fantastic game for those looking for a shorter, fun experience. Transistor is the second game developed by Supergiant Games, responsible for the massive success Hades, along with Pyre and Bastion. While it is nominally an action RPG, I would say it is more akin to action with pauses. The game originally released for PC and PS4 in May of 2014, then over the course of 2014 and 2015 also received releases for Mac, Linux, and iOS. The final platform Transistor has been released on so far has been a Switch release in 2018. At every stop on its journey, Transistor has received good critical reception, with praise coming for the game's presentation and flexible combat. The story had more mixed reception, with some liking how the game took a strong show-don't-tell approach to the story, whereas others thought that the game was shrouded in too much mystery. The game, though, was an undeniable success commercially, with over 1 million copies sold by the end of 2015. So let's get into what Transistor is about. You take control of Red, a popular singer from the city of Cloudbank, which is currently under attack from the Process. Red lost her voice during the initial attack, but gained something valuable as well, the Transistor, which she recovers from the body of a man. The man's consciousness and voice have been absorbed into the Transistor, and using it as pretty much a very heavy sword, Red can fight back against the Process. While doing that is important, her bigger goal is tracking down the 4 members of the Camarada, responsible for unleashing the Process. The game does not present you with a lot of details up front. Even what I just described mostly is information learned by examining the initial environment and early dialogue/narration from the Transistor. That is how most of the game unfolds, with plenty of locations to examine, terminals to interact with, and data to absorb into the Transistor to discover more about what is happening now and what happened to bring the present moment about. I think the game unravels its mysteries very well, with great attention to detail and environmental storytelling at its finest. The game urges you on with the promise of the mystery and secrets that fill the world. These mysteries to solve include the mysteries of Red, the man in the Transistor, the Camarada and their members, and what the Process is doing to Cloudbank. The game is not dialogue heavy, consisting mainly of the narration, and obviously Red has lost her voice, so that limits her as a character. The story is short and rich, giving you enough for satisfaction without overstaying. Inevitably, given the way the story is told though, some details may remain a mystery, which incentivizes more time investment to discover it all, but if you're not feeling it, I could understand how this would be an annoyance. Much like the story, the combat is generally simple, with increased depth and intersections as the game proceeds. You start off with a couple functions. You can have a maximum of 4 on your hotbar, but with each level up you can choose an additional function from a set of options. These functions can range from attacks, both ranged and melee, to dash moves or invisibility. Once you've filled up your hotbar, the other functions can be used to either augment an existing function or as a passive function. You do have a limited memory count that prevents you from equipping every function, and you do need to unlock augment and passive slots as you level up as well, but the more progress you make, the more combinations you can put in place. The game specifically encourages you to experiment and figure out how all the functions can synchronize with each other to make great combat builds. You can also gain additional story information via the functions as you use them in different slots, further incentivizing experimentation. It's a theme in this game. As you encounter the enemies sent by the Process, there are 2 modes to combat: the real-time movement and the frozen turn planning mode. Turns are incredibly important, as this is when you can plan out a longer sequence of attacks uninterrupted and then execute it immediately upon resumption of time. Then you'll need to wait for the cooldown to expire before beginning a turn again. This is why I can't call Transistor an action RPG. It is active, but the main crux of combat is getting to your turn and strategically planning out your moves in frozen time. Once all the enemies are killed, you will gain experience and proceed onwards. If your health reaches 0 though, you do not immediately die. Instead, you lose control of one of the functions on your hotbar. If you lose all the functions, that is when you die and lose completely. I like the system, as you still have to avoid losing health so you can fight at full power, but if you just died outright each time you hit 0, the game would be a lot harder and I think less fun. The enemy cast is great with a lot of variety in enemy types. You'll usually encounter several new enemies in each area you travel to in the game, and variations on enemy types you've already faced as you progress. It's quite impressive that such a short game has such extensive enemy variety, and given that variety, you need varied tactics in order to defeat said enemies. Another reason why experimentation and different combinations of functions are encouraged over your playthrough. The battles set you up over time, and the boss battles in particular are tough and nerve-wracking at times as you work to pull off the best combination of moves while staying alive. I found the game reasonably difficult at times, but if you are finding that it is not enough of a challenge, there are limiters that you can add on that give additional abilities to the enemies and increase the experience that you get as Red. So you basically get to pick your own difficulty when you have the limiters equipped. Most of the game is focused on Red's journey and battle against the process, but there is one exception that I guess counts as side content, and that is the sandbox. While wandering around, you can happen upon portals called backdoors that will transport you to the sandbox, where you can play various music tracks, play with Luna the fire dog and a ball, think and contemplate for a little while, or engage in some challenges. The various doors leading from the sandbox lead to certain challenges, defeating a certain number of waves of enemies, destroying every enemy in a single turn, surviving for a specific amount of time, defeating all the enemies in a limited amount of time, and a high score mode. Not only are these fun challenges on their own, but I found I learned a lot more about the combat system and the various abilities by playing around in the sandbox. A useful and entertaining side diversion that you don't have to engage with if you don't want to, but does reward you for taking the time to explore what it has to offer. Presentation-wise, the game is shiny, fitting the idea of a futuristic city. The environment does still manage to have more variety than some futuristic cities in other media by keeping notice of the smaller details. Signs, murals, and various other details help distinguish between locations, but the homogeneity is also likely purposeful to convey a society that appears to have a lot of uniformity pushed on its people. Since the only character that appears most of the time is Red, her character design is clearly the most important, and they nailed it. She is exactly as glamorous as you would expect given her background, and the few designs we see in addition to Red are also quite nice. The soundtrack is solid, with my particular favorite being the main vocal track. Voice acting wise, the game is limited mainly to the narration, but there's a reason they keep bringing Logan Cunningham back, because he does a fantastic job. Finally, the UI and UX is mostly good. There is some clunkiness in menu navigation and explanation of the various functions. Most of these are figured out with time and experience though, and because you have the turn stoppages of time, you don't have to worry about quick button pressing or movement. Suffice to say, if you have enjoyed the presentation in any Supergiant game prior to this one, I see no reason why you would not also enjoy the presentation in this one. Transistor is a game that embraces its simplicity on the surface to give you a richer, deeper experience when you dive more into the mechanics. A compact adventure that, in spite of its limited cast, manages to tell a memorable tale and challenge you with a variety of enemies and combinations to try out with Red. As always, you can see the legacy of Transistor in the studio's subsequent games of Pyre and Hades, and I look forward to moving back to the first of the games, Bastion, at some point in the future. If you have not given Transistor a try before, I definitely recommend it, and if you have played it already, maybe I've tempted you to go back to it now. Either way, I hope you enjoyed. Give the video a like to help save us from the process of the YouTube algorithm. Let me know in the comments what you think, and subscribe to get us ever closer to achieving another round number milestone. Have a great day, and happy gaming.